Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everyone. All right. Let's start this over. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Avatar Rewatch. I'm Nick, and this is the not Wonder Bat enjoyer, Jared. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well. How about yourself? And you better say not, because remember, I have the power of removing you from the stream.
So yes, this week we are covering the Return to Omashu episode. I'd say this is a pretty key episode. Last week's episode was a bit filler. This one pushed things forward really well. So, Jared, what are your initial thoughts on this episode?
I like how this episode basically puts together the female Furies, but in Amazon form, which Avatar form, which I certainly enjoyed. And for those of you that don't know, the female Furies are Darkseid's elite fighting force.
Well, some older fans sometimes refer to them as Ozai's Angels. If you're a little bit older, so
yeah, I knew. As soon as like that, they started assembling basically the A team of female characters. Which, by the way, this team is badass. I love that.
Yeah, and we'll get to that here. So when we last left off, they had gotten to Omashu, and it was already taken over by the Fire Nation. So they sneaked their way in. And I love like the visual gag of they're going through the sewers. Aang's using air bending to clear the sewers. Katara's using water bending, and Sokka's like, he gets the whole brunt of it. But what did you think of like the little like? Honestly, they look like squishmallows. Honestly, they look like little tiny squishmallows.
They did. It's just like the typical really cute creature that looks like it's causing harm to, but it's really not. And I like how they use this to sort of go into full zombie mode.
Yeah, they went full Walking Dead, and I am happy.
I know that it was hilarious, particularly when they use that to trick the Fire Nation. I was like, did they really just buy that?
They did. So we catch up. So this is we catch up with Azula here, and she decides she needs a strike force, so she goes recruiting the team. So first she goes to visit Ty Lee. And what's your opinion? What do you think of Ty Lee? What was your first impression of her?
That's the acrobat, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny how kind of innocent she was, and she's like, "No, I just want to perform and all that stuff. That's my calling." And then it's like, I love how the sister just starts sabotaging her, like take away the net, or we could put the net on fire.
Yeah, like I really love. At first, you think Ty Lee, she's kind of she kind of acts like a basic white girl almost to a degree. Even talking about energy and auras, like.
I gotta say, by the way, I will refer to Zuko's sister as Catwoman for obvious reasons, because she's voiced by the same voice actress. That's just easiest for me. But once again, I just love how like she's like, I've seen a sign that maybe I should abandon this field. I'm with you, and then Catwoman just grins, and I'm like, yeah, I know what you did.
Yeah, I really like the acting, the animation on this. Like when I think I'll stay and watch the show, and immediately. Ty Lee's face just drops, the mask slips, like she's like, oh shit, she knows something's about to happen, and it's like, oh, I've changed my mind. The cosmic universe is telling me. It's totally not the fact that I just died 5 minutes ago.
I think because she's like, she's gonna kill me if I don't come with her.
Yeah, Ty Lee knows exactly what's up, and then May, who's already at Omashu because her father almost said husband. That would have been awkward.
That's in the Alabama version of Avatar.
But no, her father has been installed as governor of Omashu, and Yep. So the first order of business is to get people out of Omashu. So they kind of use the squishmallows. That's what I'm going to call them. It's just called squishmallows because I can't remember what
makes sense. That just makes sense.
To create kind of like a little bit of a Walking Dead scenario to get them out. But turns out that Tom Tom, the baby, actually went with them. So they inadvertently kidnapped the governor's son. Like,
it's like baby's day out, baby. It's like baby's day out, Nick. It's baby's day out. Baby's 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 voyage out.
Pretty much. So basically, they arrange a trade. So trade the baby for King Bumi, and when they get to it, they're on the scaffolding because they're building a giant Ozai statue because of course they are. And they have King Bumi in like this giant box, and Azula's like, "No, wait, we're not doing this trade." And so a huge battle ensues, and you really get a feel of how these two other people like react and whatnot. So the important thing to know is that these two, other than Azula, are non-benders. They do not bend.
Yeah.
What do you think of like Ty Lee and like the thing she did?
Remind me on the thing she did.
So it's called chi blocking, where she.
Where she tapped someone. That was awesome. That was weird. I was like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, so Ty Lee can basically stop a person's bending temporarily with chi blocking and whatnot, and May is the master of knives.
By the way, that whole chi blocking thing kind of reminded me of that one scene in Falcon and the Winter Soldier where Bucky is fighting that person in the Dora Milaje, and then she like taps certain parts of the arm and it just falls off.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, honestly, we get some really good displays of bending. Mm-hmm. Probably my favorite display of bending is, I think this was Katara that did that, where she used the water bending to like take the wooden planks and they use that to catch the knives. I thought that was like a really, really smart use.
But what I like about this is that it showed that you don't have to be a bender to be a badass.
Exactly. They like, honestly, you know, I'm just gonna call them Ozai's Angels. They put up a really good showing. They do technically get defeated, but they put up a really good fight. They honestly put themselves as a legitimate threat. Like, it's honestly a very hard tightrope to walk, to have characters who they get defeated every week but still are considered a threat. And I think in this instance they did a really good job.
Mm-hmm. They did.
So and then also there's also another portion of this episode they wanted to highlight where like they're like Katara's playing with Jack. He's going full motherly on him, like, "Oh, is he not cute? You're cute, Fire Nation baby." And then they kind of talk about the innocence of like civilians and war, like, "Oh, he's gonna grow up to be a Fire Nation soldier. He's gonna try and kill you one day," you know. Like, I actually thought that was a really interesting topic thing to go to for a kid show. What do you think?
Yeah, because it's dealing with that whole nature versus nurture. Are you guaranteed to be? Is your fate decided for who you're going to be? Plus, this has been like done so many different times. I'm not saying it's redundant or anything like that. I still like this, but I'm just saying that this plot's been done in so many different ways. Like in Clone Wars, he's raised separatist, so he'll grow to hate us.
Literally, the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly. But
you know, the baby Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, I know. He's a lot younger than I thought he'd be, but it was really good. I definitely like that component. And again, I say this every single week. This goes back to one of the things I like about the show. They deal with very heavy adult topics, but in a kid's show.
Yeah, because it would be very easy to have kind of like a black and white morality of like, Fire Nation bad, everyone else good. And they don't. Like, obviously, the Fire Nation is the aggressor in this sense, and there's some really bad people in the Fire Nation. But, like, you'll see, like, yeah, these people are just, you know, a lot of them are just normal people. The other thing I want to touch upon is the finale with Bumi. Mm-hmm. The fact that, like, he could get himself out anytime he wants. But he brings up the concept of neutral Jing.
Mm-hmm.
where there's positive Jing where you're doing something, negative Jing where you're retreating, and neutral Jing is doing nothing.
Yeah.
What did you think of like that concept? Like him bring that up?
Yeah, I dig that whole. First off, I love the reveal that he could bend this entire time, and even Aang's like, you could do this entire time, and then yeah, I because what this episode did is that it really dug into like it did more of a deep dive into bending itself because A, it showed that you can like block bending, and B, this neutral Jing thing that's like cause and effect and stuff.
Yeah, and Jared, I will let you know the thing that Bumi is waiting for. We will see in season 3. We'll see it, but it will happen. There is a payoff to this. So
awesome.
But
Can't
yeah,
wait.
I just thought that was so interesting. The fact he could have gotten himself out at any time, but he's like it's just kind of choose like. I feel like Bumi just operates on a whole nother level of intelligence than the rest of us.
He does. Which is kind of funny because he seems super crazy and stuff, but he's actually not that crazy. He's actually really smart.
Yeah, he's kind of like the only like he's like I would say that, and I love the way he interacts with Aang in this episode. It's like he's talking to him both like a father would talk to a son, but also would talk to them like a friend. It's like both at the same time. It's a really interesting kind of dynamic because yes, they're old friends, but at the same time, Bumi is 100-something years old, and Aang's still relatively young. So it's like you got that kind of experience dynamic. It's really interesting.
I dug it.
Yeah. So, anything else about this episode that kind of stuck out with you? I guess it's like
the action
kind of
scenes were really well animated. Yeah,
I loved like the whole scaffolding fight, and also I love like Azula's reaction and like the fact that it's the Avatar and whatnot. So
I also love one of my favorite things that was animated is when Bumi reaches like the end of the little slide. He like creates a rock ramp and then jumps and turns around the rock ramp and just standing there in his little coffin thing. That was so funny.
I love the way he just goes back up cackling. It's like he's just like. All right, so what's your final thoughts on this?
I give it a solid 9 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It was really fun.
Yeah, I would give it the same. It's a really solid episode, and I'm looking forward to it. And then, next week we have the swamp. Ooh, the swamp. Ooh, like we're talking about, like we're going full Alabama. Next week we are going full Alabama. We are.
Boy.
Paddle. You better have your guitars ready, sir, because we're going to meet some foggy swamp banders, and they're going to be giving us okra and pickles, and we're going to marry our cousins.
Watch this episode. It gets demonetized for that little monologue.
I'll tell you a funny fact after we finish recording, but yep. So this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press, and remember, I can only show you the door. You're the one to walk through it.